Hello, my name is Chantz and I'm the Executive Director for Technology and Analytics and the Chief Privacy Officer at the Canadian Medical Protective Association. Our business is to provide medical liability assistance for physicians in Canada, as well as research and education on providing safer medical care. The reason I wanted to give this presentation is because much of the discourse around responsible and ethical AI is encouraging companies to pursue this because it's the right thing to do. Our experience is that pursuing responsible and ethical AI has actually helped us make better decisions, and I believe it's actually helped us to pursue AI more effectively. So today I'm going to share with you our journey, as well as potentially a roadmap on how you can apply these concepts to help you achieve better outcomes in your AI initiatives. So we all know the proposed benefits from AI. It helps businesses succeed by automating routine tasks, boosting productivity, uncovering insights, better decision-making, enhanced customer experiences, personalization, innovation, and more. Or at least that's what all the AI vendors like to tell us. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. And that is that 70 to 85% of AI projects fail. That's at least double or triple normal technology projects. And this is across a number of different methodologies and research firms from Gartner, McKinsey, Rand, and many, many more. So this is bad news if you, like me, are responsible for implementing AI initiatives. So here's the thesis of my presentation, is that culture is the major reason that AI initiatives fail. And our experience is that by developing responsible principles of AI use can actually help you align your AI initiatives with your culture. So what I'm going to do is walk through our journey and then also give you some really practical tips and a process to develop your own AI principles that I hope will help improve your success in doing AI initiatives. So what happened to us? In November 2023, ChatGPT hit the market, and we looked at this with keen interest. Our business has a lot of unstructured text data, and these large language models seem to provide the answer to unlock a lot of the data and a lot of the value in these data. So we worked really hard to see if we could get some pilots off the ground, and we're actually very successful. We launched 4 generative AI pilots in 2024, and on paper they were great. They had clear business objectives. We had a lot of experience with predictive analytics, so we knew they were technically feasible. We had strong support from our CEO and board. We were well funded, and our organization actually has a very strong security and privacy culture, so we were great on that end. So we launched these pilots in the beginning of 2024. We ran them for 2 quarters, and in Q3 of that year, we took a step back and we assessed how they were going. And I'm happy to say that we were overachievers in that basically all 4 of our generative AI pilots failed. So in our postmortem, when we were looking at the reasons for the failure, we had some that were very understandable. One was that we maybe treated the pilots a little bit too much like traditional software development. So we ignored the central place that data has and the experimental nature and the probabilistic nature of AI. We probably had an over-reliance on build in-house versus buy, though to be fair, at the time, there weren't a lot of tools out there that we could buy. And we may have had the wrong people in the wrong places. So we had enthusiastic AI users, but they're in the back end on the server side in the front end, helping us understand kind of the usability. That said, when we probed a little deeper and we tried to understand, these are sort of reasons for failure, but what really happened, what we found was on the business side, a lot of our colleagues told us they had no time, they didn't have capacity, and really this wasn't something that they're interested in doing. So in essence, our AI pilots were kind of nowhere before they even started. So that was the problem. And if you look at the AI literature, there's a number of common challenges that are identified. Unclear business objectives, poor data quality, the nature of AI, I touched on that already, organizational cultural challenges, privacy, security, and data governance. However, my experience is that not all of these challenges are equal. And in fact, it's the challenges around your culture and your organization that are probably the hardest to address and probably have an outsized impact on the success of your AI initiatives. So some of the symptoms, how do you know you've got these cultural challenges? You have pilot paralysis. So you're able to get something from a proof of concept, but you can't really seem to get it off the ground and into operationalization. Maybe there's resistance to change. Maybe you don't have buy-in across all levels. So one of our pilots, we had strong buy-in at the VP level, but when we went one level further down, There wasn't buy-in. There was no time. It didn't seem like our priorities were aligned. There's delays, foot dragging, and more. So if you're seeing these in your AI initiatives, probably the old adage that culture eats strategy for breakfast is likely true in your case. So for the rest of my presentation, I'm going to walk through how we address these cultural barriers through developing responsible AI guidelines. So why did we turn to AI principles to address this culture gap? Well, for us, we tried to make these very practical. It was all about how the organization will use AI. So we tried to align our values with our AI efforts. We used these principles to guide our development, procurement, deployment, and, as I said, use of AI. Interestingly, it also helped us understand where we would not use AI. It helped us think through some thorny issues before they arose, and it also helped staff understand how they can use AI by putting down on paper how, when, and why. So this is for us what AI principles meant. So going back to our journey, here's our timeline. So we launched our pilots in 2024, worked on them for 2 quarters, did our pause, found the failure, postmortem, and then we started developing AI principles. We were able to do this in a relatively short period of time. All told, it took about 6 weeks. We got C-suite sign-off on the principles, board support, and then we relaunched our AI initiative in early 2025, and that takes us to present. So where are we now? Well, since the reboot, we're in really good shape. We pared down our AI initiatives to 1, and this is a custom large language model that we're ready to operationalize. It's focused on better understanding our clients, we call them members, and it's also focused on developing a new capability that staff couldn't get to but always wanted to. We've estimated that the ongoing value creation now and every year in the future will be around $500,000 and about 6 full-time employee equivalent of labor. So a really valuable first pilot that we're able to get off the ground is actually about to be operationalized. The other thing we did is we launched this program to allow us to have a ground-up exploration of tools. So it's up to staff to tell us what they want to explore, as opposed to us saying, here are the things we need to do. So right now we have 6 different pilots underway using different tools. We estimate about 1 in 5 staff are participating using AI at their choice. So it's not being voluntold, they're actually volunteering. And at very minimal outlay, about $50,000. Some of the benefits are wide-ranging, and I think will stand us in really good stead moving forward. So we have increased AI literacy, reduced fear around AI, better bottom-up acceptance, and we have some great insights on what we can anticipate in terms of future productivity, the use cases we're going to pursue. So I'm feeling really good about where we're at in 2025. And I put a lot of that around kind of the thinking around developing these AI principles and putting these into place. So now I'd like to spend a little bit of time on how we developed our AI principles. And what we've done is we've looked at how we did it, and we've kind of cleaned that up and made it something that we hope other organizations can look at and apply themselves. So it's a 3-step process. The first step is something I'll call developing your guardrails. So this is essentially understanding how you're going to deal with the key risks associated with AI. Then I'm going to propose that you focus on the key benefits related to AI. And really, the key takeaway here is focus on 1 or 2. It's not all of them. And then finally, none of these things can be a cookie cutter approach. There may be a tendency just to write into ChatGPT or Perplexity or your tool of choice and say, give us AI principles of use. If you do that, it'll fail. You really need to bring in the rest of the organization and develop these collaboratively. So the first step, here's what we did. We identified and understand the risks that AI would pose. So the process we did is we imagined we're in the future and that we've successfully implemented AI. Well, to get there, there's a number of risks that we would have had to address. And this is where responsible AI principles really came into play. All the responsible AI frameworks, they give you a roadmap of the key risks that you're going to have to deal with. And so we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We looked at these responsible AI frameworks, and they allowed us to understand where we needed to go. So we brought these risks to our leadership, we captured the discussion, and we forced a decision on how we're going to cover these risks. And the outcomes were that we got credible, clear direction on where to go, where not to go, and the ways to get from here to there. And so this is what I'm calling guardrails. So how did we do it? What we did is we developed scenarios based on the risks that we would have to manage. And again, this is where the personalization comes in. We took the NIST AI risk management framework, but you could use the ISO one or any others. And they've got a list of the key risks you're going to have to manage and what's important for AI to manage those things. And then we made it ours. So we looked at it and put it into our context. So the top of the line, so valid and reliable AI is required. For our organization, well, we provide advice. And so it's critical to us that we're accurate, we're reliable, and we're credible. And so we walked through the rest of the AI risk framework, and we really tried to understand, well, what are the risks we would have had to manage if AI was present in an organization? That got us down to 5 scenarios, focused on data protection, automation, transparency, fairness and bias, and then reliability. And here's how the scenarios worked. And I think some of these aspects are really critical and really helped us have a successful outcome. So I'll show you what the scenario we developed was for reliability and service. So each scenario had the same structure. First of all, we provided a really clear example of AI in use already. And we had a really clear definition of the risk that this AI posed to the business. So we didn't sugarcoat anything. And then we asked senior leadership, how did we solve this risk? And the mechanism we used is we did a vote, an anonymous vote. So everyone had to vote, and they had to provide the rationale or the context for why they voted in the way they did. So I'll give you a very clear example of one of these scenarios. So this is the actual scenario we provided to our senior leadership. And it was just 1 page, really clear, 4 bullets. So we've developed a chatbot. It provides high quality advice on a broad set of standard issues. It will refer to a human. And here's what's critical is we said it has an acceptable level of accuracy and reliability, but it may get things wrong every now and again. And just for context, it was around this time that one of our major airlines had just put out a chatbot, and the chatbot had been disastrous. It had provided discounts to customers that it wasn't allowed to. It turned into a huge reputation thing, is in the media, and it was a disaster. So this is the actual external context that's going on while we're having this conversation. So we did this in a workout, a breakout room. I think it was like a 45-minute conversation. And at the end of the conversation, we said, you need to vote. Yes, we deploy it externally. We deploy it internally, so it's only to support staff, or no. But you need to provide a comment or a rationale. And so just for context, our organization is essentially an insurance organization. We're very risk averse. And so the thought of getting things wrong is something that's kind of not in our DNA. But the results of this workshop were quite surprising. So these are real results. And so the 25 senior leaders that we asked, 23 of them said, let's use it externally. In fact, we have to. So this is something that I would never have guessed our leadership would have come back with. And what's interesting is on the side there, you've got kind of the summary of their comments. And that's where we got really the key information on how do we get from being really risk adverse to using a chatbot externally. It really kind of gave us that roadmap of how do we get from here to there. And so these guardrails, when you're done with them, they should establish some clear no-go zones, as well as some clear directions on how do we get from where we are today to where we've managed these risks. The second piece that we did was we focused on a key benefit. Again, we went back and we looked at strategic scenarios. So we said it's 10 years in the future, the organization is thriving, what happened? Or the organization actually failed, it folded, what happened? And in these things, we then asked, how did AI contribute to the success of the organization? Or in the other one, what benefits of AI would have kept us from folding? And these conversations identified a number of things that really challenged our assumptions and allowed us to really hone in on the key benefits that's important to us from AI. So here are the benefits that I started out this presentation on that AI vendors would tell you are incredibly important. And what was really interesting is for our strategy and our culture, they're not all as important. So for us, efficiency, that was not a make or break. Errors, costs, even improved decision-making was not a key piece. For us, the benefit from AI was enhanced customer experience and improved employee engagement. So having this information really helps you really hone in on not just which AI you want to move forward with, but how you talk about it. How do you speak to your teams on what is this going to bring you? And if you pick the right ones that resonate with the organization, I think you're going to get around a lot of these cultural barriers. So the final thing that we did that I recommend you do is bring all of this together in a cross-departmental working group. Make sure it's a mix of levels, so not all senior management. Make sure you've got a mix of functions and a mix of areas. And so here's this working group. Here's the actual mandate that we gave them. We said, develop these principles, make sure it aligns with best practices, make them practical, make them easy to understand, and mitigate the risks. So this working group, we were able to pull it off in about 6 weeks. And here's how we did it. First meeting, we provided an overview of the legislation and the regulation, the company data protection standards, and we walked them through the key elements of risk management. The next thing we did was we introduced the information that we got from these workshops, so the key benefits, the guardrails, as well as our strategic plan and our own values and ethics. And then we asked the working group to develop these principles. They did them as homework. We brought them together, pulled them together into one document, and then we iterated. We said, okay, does this make sense for staff? No. How do we change it? Does this make sense for key contractors? How do we change it? Does this help us identify which AI initiatives we should pursue? And then finally, can we present this to different groups? And so at the end of it, and this took, again, about 6 weeks, we had a number of really interesting conversations that we had to kind of land on. And where needed, we brought that back to senior management, right? Like ideas like, is it feasible to have explainable AI? In our case, we felt that probably not. But we really had to delve into these things and deal with them in our principles. And throughout all these conversations, we got a much clearer picture on why there's a lot of resistance. And the biggest fear is that AI would change the essence of who we were as an organization. So at the end of it, our principles of use, we had clear criteria on where we would use AI. And we had 5 principles. And each one had a clear rationale that we shared on how we'd use AI. We reiterated staff accountability, where we would not use AI, data protection, and expectations of key suppliers. So I'm going to take 1 minute and walk you through our rationale for one of our principles. So where we were was AI would democratize our access to information. It would raise the baseline of knowledge, and it would reduce kind of the traditional barriers to expertise. So for us to maintain our position, we had to continually adapt, generate new knowledge, and because we're dealing with physicians who've been charged with negligence, there would always be new, complex, and emotionally charged situations that we had to navigate. And so for us to have continued success, we need to continue to have a culture that's grounded in human expertise, sound judgment, and meaningful relationships. So that's how we'd implement AI, so it strengthens these qualities. And so the principle that we put into these 5 principles, one of them is we'll value our people's judgment, expertise, and interpersonal connections, and we'll use AI as a tool to strengthen these qualities. So that's an example of how we did it and what it looked like. And you can see that's a very different spot than increased efficiency, for example. So for us, that's what made sense. And this really helped us align our strategy with our culture. Here's a quick translation of how we did it for staff. So for staff, they're accountable. Trust, you have to be clear about how you're using AI. Review it for errors, bias. Make sure that you use this to enhance connections, especially with our clients, and data protection. We've also taken this, and this has allowed us now to develop an in-house risk assessment process for AI. This complements our privacy impact assessments and security threat assessments. We're prioritizing areas for innovation in customer service and employee engagement, and we started having conversations with key suppliers on how they use AI. So to reiterate, before the AI principles, we had 100% project failure. After having this guidance and thinking through how we use AI, we've got a successful project about to be operationalized. About 20% of our staff are using AI tools. We're looking at evaluating and eventually deploying up to 6 other ones. And we have a pipeline of AI projects that business is chomping at the bit to use. So the key takeaway from this presentation, if you don't account for culture, your AI initiatives will fail. I believe that developing AI principles of use will help align your AI with that culture. I presented a 3-step process to develop your principles of use. The first one is developing guardrails. What are those tough decisions you're going to make on to managing the risk from AI? Focus on 1, maybe 2 key benefits, and then make it yours. These can't be cookie cutter. You got to bring it across the organization and get the entire organization to develop it. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take questions.